May I trouble anyone for a clicker pen? If anyone happens to have a pen that kind of clicks, makes an audible noise, or kind of, okay, thank you. Can you hear it? Yeah. Okay, good. This is part of the presentation. That's old. I may have to upgrade it. I'll just read it.
So you're actually right on time. You're 3:18 and 3:20 is when this was going to start. So you got from 3:20 till 4 o'clock with us. Okay. And then at 4 o'clock we'll have another 5 minutes or so to do ranking out the AD. Sure. And then that's 4 p.m. is when the next people come in. So everybody's got 15 minutes basically.
Sure. Does anyone have an extra pen maybe for Gary, who's kind of just took?
I've got a treasure trove.
Actually, these XL pens are really nice.
I found their stash. It's a perfectly good pen over here.
I got one. I think so.
So are we doing this, I assume, a formal presentation? Because I'll tell you the main goal of what I'm looking to get out of this today is to get some really good feedback from everyone. So if you want to even just stop me during the presentation and talk about things with me, I'm not really too concerned.
Well, we shouldn't do that because we need to get time. So we'll do that all at the end. So
Yeah.
just blast off.
Sure, sounds good.
So as I understand, you're going to start with the 30-second piece. Is that right? Did they give you the instructions on it?
They probably did. It's been a busy week.
Okay. You're supposed to give a 30-second elevator pitch that's supposed to be timed at no more than 30 seconds. Your elevator pitch, 30 seconds.
And no advancement slides or
Nothing. Just your 30-second elevator pitch to us. And then, when you're done with that, then you'll start your presentations.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just repeat myself again for the next
So you have
the
30
slides,
seconds.
or
Yeah, okay.
I'll just advance those. Sure.
Yeah, I think they just need that for the presentation tonight. That's all.
Sure. Am I pointing to the judges here, to the camera? I want to make sure.
Just
I'll kick off.
Okay.
This is easy. Don't worry. This is easy.
Sure. All right. So my name is Rob Castellucci, and this is DropBeat. So I have been a dance instructor for the past 3 years. I actually teach salsa. And when there's someone new that comes in for a salsa class, the number one challenge that they experience is that they cannot find the counts, the beats. If you can't find where the 1 is, where the 2 is, these different counts in the music, then there's no way you can really dance salsa. And this actually coordinates with a lot of other kinds of dancing as well. So the concept is, if you're familiar with SoundHound, some of these mobile apps that can actually extract the music and interpret that with signal processing, we want to interpret the beats. So if you hear a salsa music playing, you can start this app, and it can start vibrating your phone on the appropriate count. When you're supposed to step forward with your left foot, it's going to vibrate your palm, right? So that is the very brief elevator pitch of how, I was about to say that, how DropBeat works.
Okay, just so you'll know, that was about 30, 36, 37 seconds, or maybe 40 seconds probably. Okay. So just so you'll know, or if they choose you tonight, you'll have to turn that down.
Sure.
They say they're going to turn the mic off at 30 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, you did fine, and then you started to expand. You stop almost at 30 seconds.
Back to the signal processing stuff.
Yeah, don't go through a whole lot of details. You're going to get into the details of this, but just
Sure.
let us know what you're doing.
Sure. Good to get started?
Yeah.
Good. Great. So let me give you a little bit of background real quick on how we came here. This is an idea that's all of 2 weeks old. So something that we pitched at Startup Weekend 2 weeks ago. We were fortunate enough to win that event, and Nathan is one of my team members there on that team. And as I mentioned, really the problem here is so the problem here is that individuals, specifically men usually, are unable to find the beat. Now, not to say that women cannot find the beat, but it's men that are supposed to lead in many of these dances, right? So if they can't find the 1 count, then you have serious problems, whereas the ladies are more often meant to follow in this dancing. So the solution we came up with is DropBeat, and this is a mobile application that basically the way that it works is we use signal processing to recognize the name of the song, we recognize the beats in that song, and then we'll start sending out signals, both vibration and audible, to your phone on those given beats. To give you an idea of how this interface may work, and none of this is programmed in yet, smoke and mirrors a bit, but essentially you'll start by hitting a button. We'll begin sensing the music that's playing over the airwaves, and then we'll capture the name of that song using something like a Shazam, a SoundHound. There are many of these open APIs that you can access into. Once it analyzes that, it'll begin analyzing the beats, and once again, begin giving you those signals to your phone. So the market size, I put this here very much on purpose, the question mark, but we really don't know at this point what the market size is, right? We did, again, all of 2 weeks of really looking into this. I am very confident about the salsa market size as far as there being a true need there. There are potentially, I was actually just talking to Bill outside who does hustle dancing. He said hustle is definitely another one where you do need to know the counts as a man. There are, I'm sure, many other kinds of dancing that you need. Now, just in salsa, we saw, actually I should say overall, we saw about 1.2 million dancing men. Now, this is a rough figure. This is something I certainly want to look into a lot more. 26,500 dance instructors. Now, the biggest question here is the market large enough? Is it worth the time spent to really look into this market? At this time, it is very much still a question mark. And that's what I'm really hoping that we get some good feedback from the judges today on really looking at maybe different ways of viewing this market and different ways to expand what we see as the engine, right? And the engine of this whole thing is the ability to have an algorithm that can understand the music in a dancing context. So knowing where the counts are, knowing where the beats are. We did get a chance to do some user feedback. We found some really interesting things. For instance, the original concept was to have this phone and be able to put it in your pocket. So if you're going out to a social dancing context, you can feel the vibration in your pocket, and the lady doesn't necessarily know that you're having a little helper in your pocket to know the beats. But we found through some user testing that they can't actually feel the vibrations. So that use case is probably not going to work. It's going to be more of a active tool that you'll have out in your hand as you're dancing. But eventually you'll have to get off of that and know the beats themselves. You can see here, the one that jumps out biggest to me is number one pet peeve is men dancing off beat. This is something that the ladies complain about, not just the men, right? We also did some user feedback, not only in person, but also online. So we set up a fake landing page, a fake purchase page, really describing some of the benefits of the application, how we assume that it will work in the future. And we measured conversion rate. So 181 impressions, 30 purchases. So 30 fake purchases, albeit, but trying to show some proof of concept that people actually do want to use this. I believe we did the target of salsa dancers on this. And we found that the ideal price level is about $5 for the app. So you see a range in these mobile apps. On the iPhone, definitely they charge more than on the Android, but we see a range of about 99 cents to the high end usually being $4.99 unless you're getting something very specialized. Of course, the way that we would sell this is through the Android and the App Store, probably beginning with the App Store since there is a higher level that you can usually charge for those apps. As far as the business model, we're pretty sure we want to do a one-time purchase, but there could be something that's recurring in nature. There could be maybe a freemium type model where you purchase a minimum amount of functionality and then it can be upgraded to an extended amount. For instance, you can capture it through the airwaves over the airwaves, but then if you want to pay an extra $1, you can have something that's hard-coded into your phone. So if you have iTunes on your app, on your mobile, then you can interpret those songs as well. So this is where it gets interesting. Everything else was business, how we're going to approach this market, but as I mentioned, everything comes down to the engine, right? What we're building here. Unfortunately, our PhD in signal processing cannot be here today. He's traveling, but really he's the one that will be developing this signal processing algorithm. So we have a prototype app. We've analyzed one song, really analyzed the spikes of that, shown proof of concept again. There's a lot of more work that needs to be done. The roadmap is to look into services like Grooveshark. We actually applied for their API just today. Shazam is another sound hound, looks to be the most extensive at this point, really exploring those APIs and seeing what we can do with them. Now, with the results on the constellations and transcription, as I said, our PhD is not here today. I want to make sure that I give you some of the technical, since I know we have people who deal with patents and IP technology a lot. So essentially shown below is the reconstruction of what they call the constellation plot. So this is the constellation plot right here. So this is essentially a compressed form of the spectrogram. I'm not sure what that is. We're still working on the technology, of course. So one other thing that we are considering is, as we're developing this technology, is to have a manual input process. So you have this app, people can go into this app and manually tap at the points where they feel like the one counting. So have something very much more crowdsourced to begin with as we're developing the actual algorithm that is going to eventually power this. This is the team from Startup Weekend. So this is everybody right here, right there on the left is our PhD. Where is Nathan? There's Nathan right there on the left there. But we have a team at Startup Weekend of 11 people. From that, you know, we'll see how many people stay in with the company. But at this point, that is what we have for DropBeat. So with that being said, that is the end of my presentation. I'm really looking forward to feedback that you have, really directions that we could go with this idea.
Let's talk about sales.
Yeah.
I think you've made it really clear, you don't have anything. There's no data yet. This is Pittsburgh. I mean, it's becoming really early, you know, with the concept. But what interests me is who you're going to sell this thing to. And what was worrying, and a good one, is it looks to me like you top out at 26,500 customers, you get every single one of them to buy, which is the dance instructors, as opposed to now you can resell or interest your end users. But how many customers you got?
Yeah. So, well, right now we have no customers as far as potential.
Well, I just looked at it. If you had 1.2 million demand, it's only $6 million.
Right. It's not much. Right.
That's
Now,
That's only 100% of that. But again, you mentioned that you don't know what the size of the potential could be.
sure.
That 26,500 is also another.
That seems to be the
trigger.
first graph.
It's another.
Sure. So one thing that I think, again, I've been, at least I can speak to salsa, right? So in salsa, I've been doing this for quite some time, and for every one person who gets, quote unquote, addicted to the dance as I do, another 10 people will drop out after 2 or 3 classes, right?
And that's because they can't keep the beat.
That's one of the reasons. Now, I'll tell you that's not something that we've tested very, very thoroughly, but that's more of an intuitive answer that I'll give you at this time. That's something that through our customer development process, we're going to test a lot before we build anything. But that being said, there is a long tail of people who do never really get addicted to salsa. We're hoping that an app like this is something that will keep them engaged at least longer. And certainly, of those 26,500 dance instructors, a lot of them really do rely, they see the bread and butter as those beginners. The bread and butter is not advanced people like me, right? It's the people who are coming for the first and second class that they want to come and pay and get the cards and come every
So is there a learning, do you think there is a learning curve for getting the beat?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you go to these dances and there are always many more women standing on the sidelines than men. Because the women always want to dance and they at the point where they're learning this dance and other dances, they don't really have to know the beat, right? So in the beginning, the women actually have a very easy job. Now it gets more challenging for them as the dance progresses and as they have to learn to spin 5, 6, 7 times in a row. But in the beginning, it's all on the man. We have a term for it in salsa, at least it's called salsa hell. So it's this point where you can't really get past this threshold of knowing a lot of the moves and also knowing the beat. It's very challenging, so you see a lot of drop off among them.
If you've got a limited market, theoretically, up to 1.2 plus 26.5,
Yeah.
would you evolve this into other dance modalities?
Yeah.
Country
I think that's what it's got to come to, right? So really just, I'm telling you, we had a conversation about 10 minutes ago with Bill who does hustling. He said, yeah, absolutely, that's something that I'm looking, if you make an affiliate program or something, I'll promote this around the world. And that's a nice thing about getting this message out is everyone's extremely connected in these niche dances.
As you're talking, isn't this just a metronome? Isn't this just a metronome?
In a way, I'd say a smart metronome. I mean, because it has to know where the count is, right? So for instance, in salsa, a lot of times, halfway through the song, the beat will stop, and they'll pick up on whatever beat that they want to. So it's not a constant one.
But it's tied to the specific song that's being played.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's what it's not just a metronome, but it's a metronome that's tied specifically to.
And they may speed up during the song and slow down. It's a very...
You have to know for the steps, you have to know it's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Right.
You have to know the 1. You have to know
a
the 1.
strong beat and a lesser beat.
Yeah, and that's what our PhD will be working on, really, is
Yeah, that's the
understanding
intention,
that
is to
difference.
have a
Absolutely.
more pronounced beat where it's necessary.
Absolutely.
So when you first started talking, I didn't, but you cleared up very quickly. I thought it was a gadget that you would have with you. Then you made it clear that it would go to your iPhone or whatever, your phone. I started thinking, because I'm in Zumba, and I know for some of us, a better emphasis on the beat might be helpful. When you're trying to watch that guy up there doing X, Y, Z, sometimes some people like me tune out the sound almost, because they're so visual, you know, that having a reminder, you know, would be helpful. A body reminder of beat might be helpful to a lot of Zumba people.
Absolutely.
And then I got to wondering, would that be the kind of thing you could just have on a wrist band, you know?
That's fine. We actually discussed this during our start
Because
weekend.
I'm not gonna have this with me in my Zumba clothes and stuff. But
Sure.
I could appreciate the extra body touching that goes with the beat.
Sure. And I think that's a natural extension, right? You do a proof of concept through something that everyone has in their phone, and then you can extend that out to hopefully something relatively cheap that can be manufactured, put on your wrist.
How does it work? I mean, is this beat, does it buzz, does it?
So the intention
My
is
phone
for it
beat
to
buzz light up?
the intention is for it to buzz and have an audible noise. So either a noise or maybe one count, or if you want to set it to a different count during the song. So my imagining is that it would be a template of the song, right? So you have the salsa template on it, and then you know that there are 8 counts in a salsa song, and you can pick any of those 8 counts to pick out, and that's when it starts vibrating on. That's also the one where it starts audibly saying 6, 6, something to that extent. But again, we're still very early on into this, so we're still kind of evaluating.
I've been watching an ad on TV it's for a car company. And it's for this, it's an anti-crash system that's low, you back up and you can't see what's behind you, the seat buzzes. So you can feel it. Is that what this is going to be? And then I heard this Breedlove session, I want this in back for Zumba pocket, but are you anticipating the needs of the world will never use it because I've never danced ever, but would it sit in my back pocket and I feel it? Or?
No, I don't think we would. So honestly, that's from some of our testing. We saw that the vibration just is not strong enough in a lot of settings. Now, if you're wearing very tight jeans, then yeah, you'll feel it. But if you have any kind of loose jeans, which I mean, guys obviously will have loose
Am I going to
jeans.
hook it up to a speaker? Am I going to hook it up to like an iPort or something like that?
Yeah, so actually one of our team members mentioned the idea of, well, what about the DJ actually running this, right? And actually hooking it up to his system, where then anyone that wants to hook up to that has more of a direct line to something. So instead of taking it through the airwaves, we're taking it through the DJ's system, and they can interpret it through that. So
I might suggest that you express a little confidence in, I don't like the smoke and mirrors, Chairman. Even if you don't have all the information, tell us what you know or what you think now, and that you are continuing to develop the model. But I don't want you to come across as being indecisive about what you're doing or what you know or what you think or what you're planning. Because I think those are things that people can relate to better. And then just saying, well, we really don't know where we're going with this, and I'm not sure we're still. Give us what you think. I'd rather know what you think and then let people question you about the thinking as you go forward. And one of the worst things in the world for a marketing approach is just think things versus knowing it. So you do have to migrate from thinking to knowing.
sure.
And the numbers of 1.2 to 25,000, those numbers seem to have some relevance to research that you've done. And if it's really a small research project, then just say that. But we are looking at getting more refined numbers based on some other opportunities that we might have to discuss this with other people who might be interested in it. So I would stick with trying to stay a little bit more on message that you really do have this as an idea, because if people sense you don't believe in it yet because you're still, then they'll have the same reaction.
Absolutely. So 2 questions that I had. First is, what was that question? Gosh, I'm just kind of sitting
Go to question 2.
right.
Love it when someone young has that problem.
Yeah.
I know. Take my people.
Didn't I answer number 1 for you?
Well, so one thing that we're looking to do is build a rough prototype. And again, I don't want to build actually any kind of mobile app at this point. So what instead I want to build is something very rough, to give you an idea of where we're coming from, is something that simply can vibrate in your pocket. So a dog collar, whatever, right? But have something, then use that and go to 20 different types of dance styles and go to the instructor, say, hey, can we borrow your students, your beginner students for 5-10 minutes and test this out? I think that's really the next big thing that we need to do in identifying these markets. Let's get a laundry list of every single kind of dance style out there, maybe trim it down to the top 20 that we feel would be good options, and then reach out to those people in town that dance those styles and really do some research.
Is there stuff somewhat analogously out there? I mean, I have a 14-year-old who goes to dance parties, and this game on Wii or whatever, and they show them dancing, but they also show them vibrations, whatever. I mean,
Yeah. I feel like a lot of that, in the past even 5-10 years, a lot of that has grown in popularity as well. Are you thinking of Dance Dance Revolution? Maybe that one. But there's a lot of those games coming out all of a sudden. Also things like Dancing with the Stars, I think, is showing the trend, increased popularity of seeing these dancers. Certainly, we have a lot of people that come to salsa class referring to shows like that. So I think that the trend is nothing but growing. I know you look at the two major demographics and you see China's growing very quickly in Latin America. So I think among the Latin American culture, dancing is really heavily promoted.
Are you going to sell anything in Latin America? Aren't they born?
Actually, you'd be surprised. They already think they know how to dance. So they probably wouldn't like an app like this. So I think Latin America is actually off limits. One other question I will ask is on the patenting process, right? On the IP process. Given an algorithm like what we're looking to develop, do you feel that there is anything on the IP side, anything patentable here, process-based or algorithm-based?
I mean, that so much depends on how you're going to, what you're going to capture, and how you're going to deliver it back. I'm not an expert in this at all, but it just seems to me that there are probably a lot of different ways to deliver the same information. And I think what I liked about it was that you could, in fact, discriminate a particular song, and that would then give you it has a little bit more opportunity, but you have to be careful too when you're talking to people like us, or anybody for that matter, who's not under confidentiality, and start to penalize yourself from being able to get it. So you need to sit back and think about what it is that's unique about what you're doing, because uniqueness is what is going to provide you with that opportunity. What's unique about what you're doing? It's the algorithm, that's it, but there may be many ways to get around that.
Sure.
Your $5 price point too, and your $1.2 million, 1.2 million people, people are not going to really run after you very hard if there's, because IP doesn't seem to be an issue at that point. You get 120 million people around the world, that's a different story. Maybe 12 million people doing that is a big story. But I don't know enough about IP to really comment other than say, you've got an algorithm, try to protect it.
Sure.
And then the idea about how you get information back to the individual and get other
All right.
I guess I have two real basic comments just on the presentation. You do something a lot of people your age do. You start every sentence paragraph with so pay attention. Try not to do that. You had a slide that started out with WTF. Don't use that. What is fine.
Yeah.
If you want serious people, take them seriously.
Sure.
And then also ask you about a person in common with the other.
Yeah, I probably didn't make enough modifications to this after starting, which is a little raunchy, right? Yep.
It's a reality.
All right, great. All right, thank you for the time. Thank you for the feedback.
For $5, I still need to figure out how to walk.
Left, right, left, right. Just like
Are
this.
you with the UF club?
No, I actually run my own startup in town.
I was going to say,
Bruce.
you Nicole too.
Yeah.
She was in the salsa team and was
Nicole?
one of
Yeah.
the students and teaching assistants, all those brilliant kids I know.
Yeah, she's in law school now.
She was.
Yeah, she's doing very well from what I hear. She's on law review, I think.
Was she?
Yeah, I see her. Well, not as much now.
She was, that was her fun activity in salsa.
Yeah, I think it's good to have those balancing activities, especially when going through something as strenuous as law school. I was just about to say so right there, but I didn't.
I saw you were at the fundraiser a few weeks ago and it distributed around on Facebook.
Yeah.
Dance with these guys
Yeah.
all dancing and a little video at the fundraiser.
They had the piano bar.
That piano bar.
Yep.
It was really good.
Yeah, we asked for salsa and they gave us Barry Manilow, I think.
We
so-
did, we heard that a lot of things.
Yeah.
We did